What if I told you that thinking you're addicted to sugar has nothing to do with the actual sugar or sugary treat? Okay, well, yeah, I know you've heard it before that sugar can be as addictive as drugs. And it's kind of true, but I think that could probably be said with a lot of things in life if we allow them to become an addiction. And truthfully, I'm not here to ever tell you that you have to give up all sugar forever. I personally would die. So the question that I want to answer today is not whether or not you can give up sugar for good, but instead, can you find a way to happily balance sugar in your life 100% guilt-free? Hey, I'm Elizabeth, and I am here to help you become a woman of wellness by healing your relationship with food. And today is all about that dreaded word, sugar. In fact, hear what some of my clients have to say about this topic. Elizabeth, my number one struggle with eating right now is sugar. Anything sweet, especially when I am in stress mode. Or how about this one? I struggle with a lack of control completely around food, especially sweets. Or have you ever been in this situation? It's easy for me to plow through a whole row of Oreos before I even realize what I've done. Then I beat myself up for doing that. And lastly, an honest phrase from a client who said exactly what we were all thinking. I just love sugar. And guess what? So do I. In fact, loving sugar is not a bad thing. Yeah, it's not a bad thing at all. It's one of the finer pleasures of life, wouldn't you say? But the problems arise when we feel out of control with sugar, and mostly because our sugar addictions are linked to our feelings. Yeah, those pesky feelings, those dang emotions, those hormones we experience as women that sometimes make dealing with an entire day hard. That is why today I'm going to suggest that instead of focusing on the sugar, we're going to look at emotions. In fact, I'd be willing to bet it drives 95% of your sugar consumption. Wouldn't you agree? When do you crave sugar? When you're tired, bored, stressed, lonely, or even when you want to celebrate an event or simply make it through the day? It's not the sugar your body is craving. It's the desire to manage all of the feelings that are going on inside of you. So, while I could say that the less sugar you eat, the less sugar you will eat, and just to cut back and you won't crave it, and all of the stuff that you hear a million times in the wellness world, it's not the path that we're going to take today. Today is twofold. First, to understand and deal with a sugar addiction from an emotion standpoint, and second, to learn to enjoy sweets happily and in moderation whenever you want them. When we crave sugar, it's usually because we are being deprived of something else. We are feeling restricted in some area of life. This could be feeling restricted at work because you can't seem to get it all done. Cue the stress response, right? Or maybe you're feeling restricted, feeling fulfilled in life, and that leads you to just eat when you're bored or generally unhappy. Or maybe you're the type of person that feels like you need a celebration every time you do something hard, or make it through another day, or accomplish something big. In fact, this is the kind of emotional eating I tend to gravitate toward. I always used to reward myself with a treat at the end of the day for actually making it through the day. The next time you are driven to binge on sugar, I want you to ask yourself, what is being restricted in my life that is driving me to want this? It's likely that some sort of emotion will come up for you. But then, what do you do about it? Well, it's a 3-step process. First, stop. Just stop and notice what is about to happen. Chances are you're about to binge. In that moment, just pause. Then, ask yourself what is happening. What is being restricted? What emotion is driving me right now, and what can I do about it? At this point, you have two choices. You can either deal with the emotion head on by confronting it, or you can distract from the emotion and do something else. Both are totally acceptable forms of emotion management. And although it is good to deal with your emotions, it can also be exhausting to do all the time. So sometimes it is as simple as distracting from them so you can calm down enough to actually make some rational decisions. Physically get away from the temptation and do something that helps you deal with or distract from that emotion in that moment. This could be going on a walk, calling a friend, watching a Netflix episode, whatever it is that will help that emotion calm down. Then, third, evaluate. Once you've walked away and done something else, evaluate what happened and what your next steps are. Then you can make a rational decision from there. And honestly, sometimes that rational decision is still to eat the treat. But you're in control. You're making that choice and you don't have guilt. Other times, the treat isn't actually necessary. Okay, so now I want to switch directions a little bit. How do you actually live a life of eating and enjoying sugar in moderation without being fearful of it or feeling like it actually controls you? The answer is simple. Remind yourself that food is neutral. Sugar is not a bad food, it's just a food. It's just a part of life. It's everywhere, it's available whenever you want it. Remind yourself that if you want sugar, you can have sugar. I know that might be kind of scary, but I promise as you get used to this kind of relationship with sugar, it really won't be that much of a temptation. In fact, remember that word restricted we just used? When it comes to sugar, we often think about it with a scarcity mindset. I can't have this on my diet, so I better binge on it all right now. Or, I already ate one, I might as well eat the whole box, right? Know that sugar is going to be everywhere and you can access it anytime you want. It's funny because you instantly think that would drive you to binge like crazy. And guess what? When you start on your intuitive eating journey, you might have some days like that. But over time, you just won't. Let me give you a good example. I once had a client who loved ice cream. It was her off-limits food. She couldn't be around it and definitely could not have it in her house. So together, we worked on applying intuitive eating, and she was given permission by herself to eat as much ice cream as she wanted. And she ate a lot for a few days. Then an amazing thing happened. Having the ice cream available to her at all times made it less appealing. She started eating less and eventually was able to keep it in her freezer at home without wanting it all the time. She got to the point where she could enjoy ice cream without worry or without guilt. It was absolutely life-changing for her. Personally, I approach it a little bit differently, and both ways are right, by the way. I don't typically have sweets in my house just because I don't necessarily feel like I need to access them regularly, but I know that whenever I want a treat, I have full permission to go out and buy one. I can go buy a candy bar at the store, I can get an ice cream cone, I can eat a piece of cake at a party. I don't binge on food because it's not in my house, and when I really want to indulge in something, I go for it. I also really like to make my indulgences an activity, so I will peer pressure, invite a friend to ice cream to visit with them, or my husband and I will go on a date to grab a treat. Knowing that sugar is always available to you actually does the opposite of what you think it would do. It makes it less appealing and less off limits. In fact, the only way you can know this for yourself is to try it. So, if you need to, go rewatch this video and go through the steps needed to make peace with sugar. Then give yourself full permission to eat whatever you want. Be patient. Remember that you are still learning and we're not worrying about scales or gaining weight or anything else like that. Promise me you will do that. That's not what it's about. The experiences of so many of my clients can attest to this principle. Make food neutral for you. Give yourself permission to eat what you want, and then listen to your body. Over time, you will learn, and it will tell you what you need. Believe it or not, sometimes you might actually crave the veggies instead of the sugar. Can you believe it? Okay, that was a lot of information in one video. I really hope it was helpful, and even more hopeful that you'll actually try it. The principles don't work unless you practice them. So, tell me in the comments below your thoughts. What are you nervous about? What are you going to try? Let's support each other in this journey. And remember that if you need more help with emotional eating, don't forget to take my free course. It's linked in the description below. Thanks for being here today, and I will see you next time.